Friday, we learned Gauss-Jordan elimination. And so today you guys are going to have an assignment over it. It is 3 systems where I need you to find the solution. So we're going to do the first one together, number 1, and then the other 2 will be what is being counted for a grade. So starting with number 1, here's the system that we're looking at. The first thing you want to do is turn it into an augmented matrix, which means that we get the coefficients and the constants. So top row would be 3, 4, 2, 37. Second row, -2, 1, 3, -15. And then last, 4, 5, 1, 51. That's our augmented matrix. So remember that the goal of Gauss-Jordan elimination to put it into reduced row echelon form. So this diagonal, we need those numbers all to be 1, and anything not in that diagonal, I would like for it to become a 0. Once you do that, this column will end up being your solution. So let's start with the very first one. So what I mean is, starting with this 3, I need to somehow get that to turn into a 1. Now there's 2 options. So just as a side note, 3 divided by 3 would give us 1. So I could divide the whole row by 3. But I don't want to do that because if I look at the rest of the numbers in that row, they are not divisible by 3. So dividing by 3 is going to give me some fractions and I don't want to. So that option is no good. But another way we can get 3 to become a 1 is what if I subtracted 2 from it? That would give us a 1. So luckily, if you look at your other rows, there is a -2 right here. So if I add these 2 rows, that'll help me get the 1. So for our first step, that is exactly what we are going to do. So we're going to get row 1 and we're going to replace it with row 1 plus row 2. So that would give us, so I'm just adding numbers here. 3 plus -2 gives me 1. 4 plus 1 gives us 5. 2 plus 3 gives us another 5. And 37 plus -15 gives us 22. Now the other 2 rows, we haven't done anything to them, so I'm just going to rewrite them. Okay, next step is now this number here, that -2. I would like it for it to be a 0. So again, the only way to get a -2 to become a 0 is to add 2 to it. But I don't have a 2. Let me write this, what I'm saying. So -2, if I added 2, that would give me 0. But you only have the numbers 1 and 4 to work with. So what I'm actually going to do instead is, in order to fix this to something easier to work with, I'm going to multiply this entire row by 2. Okay, so let's do that next. Row 2, we're going to replace it just by multiplying it by 2. Okay, so second row, -2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. -15 times 2 is -30. Then bottom row stays the same. So the reason I wanted to do this is, I'm sure you can see it now, it's a little bit more obvious. If I want this to become a 0, that -4, I need to add 4 to it, which I have a 4 right here. So now I can add those 2 rows in order to get rid of that -4. Okay, so next up, row 2, we're going to replace it with row 2 plus row 3. So top row is still going to be the same. Okay, but second row, we're going to start adding. -4 plus 4, that gives us 0. 2 plus 5 is 7. 6 plus 1 is also 7. And -30 plus 51 is positive 21. And then bottom will stay the same. Okay, so this column is almost done. I need this to become a 0, this 4. But this is kind of like what we were doing a while ago. The only way to get that 4 to become a 0 is to subtract 4 from it. I don't have a 4 in this column, but I can multiply this top row by 4 and then subtract. So what we're going to do is row 3, we're going to replace it with row 3 minus 4 times row 1. Okay. 1 times 4 is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20. 15 minus 20 is -15. 5 times 4 is 20. 1 minus 20 gives me -19. And then 22 times 4 is 88. 88. Okay, so 51 minus 88 is going to be -37. Okay, so I'm done with that first column. I have 1, 0, 0. The next thing that I need to worry about, so the next column, is this number here in the middle. I need that to be a 1, and then the other two places to be zeros. So 2 ways of making a 7 become a 1. Either you can do 7 divided by 7 equals 1, or you can do 7 minus 6 equals 1. Either one will get you where you want to go. But looking at the whole row all together, 7, 7, 21, all three of those are divisible by 7. So dividing by 7 is going to be the easier option. So for this step, we're going to do row 2. We're going to replace it by 1/7 of row 2, basically just dividing by 7. So divide by 7, divide by 7, both of those would become 1s, and 21 divided by 7 is 3. Okay, and now that we have that 1 in the spot that we need these other two numbers in that column to turn into zeros. So I'm going to start with this one on the top. So to get this 5 to turn into a 0, I would need to subtract 5 from it. So I'm going to have to start a new row, but I need to subtract 5 from it. The good thing is that I have a 1 now, so I could just multiply this row by 5 and then subtract. So for our next step, we're going to take row 1, and we're going to replace it with row 1 minus 5 times row 2. So I do need to zoom out so that we can see all of our numbers. Okay, so 0 times 5 is still 0. So 1 minus 0 is still 1. One times 5 is 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. Same thing here. 1 times 5 is 5. 5 minus 5 is 0. And then last part, 3 times 5 is 15. 22 minus 15 gives us 7. And the other two rows will stay the same since we're not changing them in this step. Okay, so we're making progress. The next thing that we need to do in this column is this negative 15 also has to turn into a 0. The only way to do that would be to add 15 to it. I have a 1 in this row, so I can multiply that row by 15 and then add those together. So for next step, row 3, we're going to replace it with row 3 plus 15 times row 2. So top row stays the same, and so does the second row, but bottom row is going to change. Okay, so 0 times 15 is still 0, and then plus 0 is still 0. 1 times 15 is 15, and add those together, so that'll make this a 0. 1 times 15 is 15. 15 minus 19 gives us negative 4. And then 3 times 15 is 45. 45 minus 37 is 8. Okay, so now we have the first row and the second row, columns. First column and second column are done. Third column, now this time around, I need for this number to be the 1. So the easiest way is going to be to divide by 4, and luckily both of these numbers are divisible by 4. So row 3, we're going to get 1/4 of row 3. But not only that, since it's a negative, we're going to do negative. Okay, so dividing by 4, the zeros would stay the same. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is positive 1. And then negative 1/4 times 8 is negative 2. Okay, and we're almost done. We just have one more step to go. The only thing that's holding me back from being done is that this 1 needs to be a 0. But that's an easy fix. 1 minus 1 would give us 0, and I have a 1 in the bottom row. So for this 1, in order to fix it, we're going to do row 2. We're going to replace that with row 2 minus row 3. Okay, remember we're subtracting. 0 minus 0 is still 0. 1 minus 0 is still 1. 1 minus 1 gives us 0. And 3 minus negative 2, be careful here. 3 minus negative 2, that's positive 5. And bottom row stays the same. Okay, so now take a look at what we have. We are actually finished now because we have 1s in the diagonal. Then in the other spots, there's 0s. So that means that our last column here is our solution to that system. 7, 5, negative 2. Hey guys, so I know it does take some work and it takes some practice, but I need you to solve the other two systems doing this exact same process. So you're going to have to look for clues, make sure that you are putting ones in the correct locations, and as always, you can work together to get this done. This assignment is on Schoology. You need to upload a picture of your work when you're finished, and I expect to see these little matrices for your work. All right, and that's it. Let me know if you have any questions.